perspective. And then these are some intro questions that I have, which if someone doesn't mind, can you please type this in the chat? Name and or pronouns, which many folks have already shared. What interested you in this workshop and how are you showing up today? So again, I'm Lala, I use she, he, and they pronouns. Of course, I'm the facilitator of this workshop, and what interests me is that I've been an artist for as long as I can remember, and have been an organizer for almost a decade now. So I've been combining those two interests for years, and I really love to talk about it and introduce it to folks and engage with other folks who are interested.
Sorry, just to interrupt, there was a request to speak just a little bit slower, if you could.
Yes, I can do that. Thank you. And I am showing up today fairly low on spoons, but very excited for this conversation. So I'm going to stay on this page for a second, give folks some time to respond in the chat if y'all would like. And then also, yeah, if someone can type it in chat so folks have access to it once we move to the next slide. Also, I'm realizing I think I can join the meeting from another device so I can keep track of the chat as well. So I'll do that. But this is me. So hi again, Lala, she, he, they. I am a multiply disabled, multi-passionate cultural practitioner, organizer, storyteller, and care worker. My practice is a commitment to resisting systemic oppression and building infrastructures of community care networks centered on liberation, access, art, and a politic of love. And so I know that this page is pretty text heavy, so I'm going to read it aloud. But basically, the first line of each point is the main takeaway. So come as you are. This space is low commitment. Attend to your body's needs. Cam off, mic off is fine. No pressure to chat, share, or create. 2, commitment to anti-oppressive behavior. Blatant, discriminatory, and violent language, beliefs, and behavior are strictly prohibited in this space. 3, this is not an apolitical space. This meeting is rooted in disability and mad justice and abolition. 4, mutuality and intentionality. Move with grace for the variety of our lived experiences and our ability to learn, grow, and exchange resources with one another in order to thrive. And then on the bottom, I have DM me or put a message in chat anytime with questions or concerns. Sadly, because this is like a Google Meets, again, I can't see the chat. I'm trying to join from another device, but of course, I'm sure the folks hosting with Sad Fair would welcome messages as well if you have any questions or concerns. But yeah, so moving into Artivism. Artivism originates from Los Angeles in as early as the 60s, from Chicano arts movements, and the first kind of coining of the term was from a meeting between Chicano artists and the Zapatistas, when they were kind of like meeting and movement building, trying to strategize for ways to exchange skills for, cross movement building. Artivism is a tool for creative expression and social movement building to kind of collaborate and become interconnected for organizing efforts. And so the present day significance of Artivism, in my opinion, really is like central to achieving collective liberation. I feel like collective liberation is the most common term used when thinking about like the end goal, and I put that in quotes, end goal, because of course movement building is an ongoing process. Activism and organizing are ongoing processes. And it's not realistic to think of, you know, organizing as something that has a true end. But personally, I like to describe collective liberation as thrivation. The reason being, I feel like a lot of collective liberation tends to, like other movements, get co-opted and center those who most benefit from oppressive structures. So for me, thrivation is a political framework that really centers system impacted people and those who are multiply marginalized, those who are really vulnerable to this like systemic harm. So I'll read the final line aloud because I think it's important. Thrivation is a political framework and infrastructure centered on care work to dismantle oppressive structures and meet the material needs of system impacted peoples in order to sorry, I lost my own I lost where I was. In order to engender sustainable and accessible opportunities to thrive. So just kind of like echoing that point about material needs as well. So when we talk about mutual aid, we're thinking about exchanging resources and really making these survival needs accessible to folks in our communities. So I think artivism is kind of central to that. So here are some terms that I kind of want to dive into that I feel like are very interconnected with artivism and the work of being like an artist, activist, and like combination of those things. So community care, the intentional practice of contributing to the well-being of our community members, the cultivation of networks rooted in these values. And then I give the example of mutual aid, as I said before, you know, really thinking about the material impact of the work that we're doing. So community care is not something that is like a signifier necessarily of ego and how we personally like feel about things or how we want to be perceived. It's not just caring about things for the sake of transaction and I do this for you, so you have to do this for me. It's truly an intentional like investment for the growth and sustainable thrivation, as I said before. Collective healing. Humans are naturally social and interdependent creatures. Healing is an ongoing process that cannot be done in isolation. We need each other. So I feel like that is a bit straightforward, but I feel like collective healing is also another central part of mutual aid organizing and liberation work because so many of us system impacted people, marginalized people, are traumatized and surviving really difficult conditions. So there's a lot of healing that goes into being able to participate in artivism, in mutual aid, and all this organizing work. I'm going to pause for a second because I'm finally able to hop into the meeting on a different device. So if you see another me, ignore it. But it's just so I can see the chat in case folks are trying to communicate with me while I'm facilitating. So just give me a moment, but thank y'all for the patience. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, hopefully it's not echoing anymore.
Yeah, you should be good now.
Okay, great. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so now I can see any of the messages. So if folks want to type anything in chat for me to see, I'll be checking it. every now and then. So moving on to creative healing, the use of art and expression as tools to process trauma, build community, practice empowerment, resist and dismantle systemic oppression, etc. So again, this is kind of personal definitions. These things are all from my perspectives. There's so many ways to kind of describe what creative healing looks like. But an example for me is I've kind of reframed what I've learned from arts therapy. And just turned it into like expressive healing work. So this personal work that I do when I make art, very intentionally for the sake of, these different reasons I gave, processing personal trauma or for community oriented efforts. I facilitate various like workshops and community spaces for folks to like engage, respond to prompts, and share out their responses, or to kind of come together and build like mutual understanding on different things. So I think creative healing can definitely take so many forms. But yeah, so that's kind of just a small introduction from my perspective of what that looks like. And then creative somatics. So if you aren't familiar with somatics and like somatic healing, it's kind of a form of healing. I'm not a somatics expert, but it's a kind of healing that really focuses on the mind-body connection. So when you're thinking about kind of like mindfulness, that's definitely an extension of like somatic work. So creative somatics is the integration of mind-body exercises and creative expression. So when I say exercises, I mean like activities, not literal physical exercise necessarily. So whether low mobility, bedbound, or otherwise severely disabled, all of which I identify with, there are always ways to connect with our body minds. And something I would like to add from like my own personal experience is I'm someone who has ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. And that results in me being homebound and sometimes bedbound. But I found also being autistic, stimming, engaging with my special interests, different things like that have allowed me to kind of practice these like creative somatics, making art about my special interests, or making art with my hands, painting with my hands, things like that. Those are very untraditional ways that I've found being able to tap into that, and kind of tying back into when I was speaking to collective healing and also the creative healing. I think these two things are also very much what Artivism is about. Of course, organizing and movement building are these collective things, but we have to remind ourselves like us as individuals are a part of the collective. We can't lose ourselves in the collective. And these are things that can ground us and really help movement building be sustainable when we can tap into these tools, and hopefully that makes sense. But I see someone said in the chat, hopefully it's okay if I read aloud, but I think this is really important. In addition to mind-body connection, also the way you feel emotions, store memory and trauma, etc., in your physical body, and how connecting to body and earth is central to healing trauma. 100%. I don't have anything to add. That's perfect. So I have a few pieces of art, actually quite more than a few, but some pieces of art that I really wanted to share that I felt embodied Artivism. They don't necessarily all pertain to mutual aid, but I think community care and mutual aid are definitely these things that overlap, maybe with community care being more of like an umbrella term But so yeah, I have a few slides with different pieces, which I will give visual descriptions of. And then on the bottom of each slide, I have a word that I feel like ties all of the pieces together. So for this slide, I feel like the theme of these pieces are connection. The first piece is from the Instagram page, Intelligent Mischief. It is a collage, images of three Black people, black and white images. They're standing with their hands raised, and they have blue circles over their faces. Behind them are galaxies and stars. One of them is holding up an umbrella, and there are some different textures going on in the image as well. And then there's text that says, "What if we approached healing as an act of communion?" So that is the first piece. The second piece is from Jade T. Perry, also a collage. Some clippings from magazines and a bunch of different things. So there's an image of a Black person with their arms stretched out, wearing a red or maybe pink tank top. Some different flower and leaf textures, a jar of honey, some cork-like texture in the shape of hearts, a clipping that says slow is good. One says stop saying yes all the time. One says blossom. And then there is a, I don't know the word for it, but like the piece of paper that's from the end of like a tea bag, and it has a quote on it that says, "There is nothing like you, there was nothing like you, and there shall be nothing like you." The third piece is from Shelterwood Collective, of two folks, an illustration of two folks looking at each other. Under one of them, it says, "I am rebirthing myself here." And the second one says, "I feel grief and yearning to belong." And then the final piece on this page is from Barry Lee Art. It's an image of a large butterfly holding on to two smaller butterflies, very like colorful, sort of crayon texture. And the text says, "Just because you carry heaviness well doesn't lessen your need for community care." So again, these are just some examples to me of connection, and something I think is a big part of Artivism. I think connection is a big reason why folks create art, like kind of period, just why folks create art, but also why folks create art with the intention of, advocacy and organizing work. This slide is titled Feelings. The first image is by an artist named Masuka. It's an image of a Black person in the shade of green. In their hair are sprouts, and text that reads, "Deep down lies hope." And then on their forehead, there's kind of like rainbow scribbles and pink swirls over the cheeks. The second piece is from Anna Laura Art of, I believe, a little bear creature watering plants in their window. Text says, "All the love I give comes back in delightful and unexpected ways." And the third and final piece on this page is from Artful Agony. It is a collage of a white person with their eyes closed. They have long, kind of wavy black hair with bangs. They're closing their eyes and kind of grimacing almost. And then there's illustrations of dwarves placed all around their body. And there's clippings of text that says, "My pain looks like the 7 dwarves are mining away at my body. I don't know where the next dwarf will strike, and no one can hear them singing but me." So these 3 pieces I feel like all really evoked different types of feelings. So I thought it was kind of cool to just see how, like, at least for me personally, each of these were really impactful and kind of made me feel something completely different, but also are very informative in a way that allowed me to do like deep personal reflection and also like do the other aspects of artivism, such as previously mentioned, like connection. Um, and being a chronically ill person, the third piece definitely resonated a lot. But so did the second one, and so did the first one, you know? So I don't know, I just thought these were really important pieces to share. And this slide is more silly. Um, I titled it Authenticity because something for me that I found honestly pretty recently is just shedding like the expectation and consideration for the reception of art, and really focusing on the intention of what is trying to be expressed. And of course, I'm not the artist or creator of these pieces, so I can't claim to know the intention fully, but just the way that they resonated with me and my creative mind, it just was really inspiring for me to make silly, goofy things that at their core had very like genuine messages within them. So the first piece is from JMCGG on Instagram. It's of a white t-shirt with a squirrel laying in an illustrated bed, slippers on the side of the bed, and a frame with leaves and flowers, a moon and stars. And the text reads, "Due to circumstances, I'm going to stay cozy in my bed." The second piece is from Very Lucky Clover. It's a sort of pixely illustration of a dog and a cat with a heart above their head. And the text reads, "You make me so happy, I'm starting to think you must have some secret powers or something." And the third one is definitely more of a meme than a piece of art, but I think that's also debatable. um, it's from Adorable Raccoon Memes, and it's of a thunderstorm with the face of a raccoon kind of up to the side, and then a raccoon with its arm outstretched on the bottom. And the text reads, "Normalize not having energy. I'm very tired." Again, all of these kind of really resonating with me as a disabled person, but also just being a human and being a person in general. And I think that the importance of artivism is it's so inherent to being a human. I don't think that anyone necessarily sets out to be an artivist, you know, before they've actually begun. I think a lot of us are artivists without trying. Um, Again, like I'm autistic, and I think that art is something that has helped me to understand myself and communicate myself in ways that I otherwise wouldn't be able to. And so, yeah, these three silly images were just super impactful for me. So hopefully they were for y'all as well. And then this is the final sort of core value to me of artivism, which is storytelling. Storytelling is something that's central to my life as well. I always say storytelling is life. I think we're all born storytellers. I think it's how a lot of us survive, being able to recount and retell our experiences. I wish I had the quote at the top of my mind, but there is a quote from Bell Hooks where she was basically talking about how memory is sort of this blending of a dream and what you actually recollect. You don't necessarily have to remember things accurately for it to kind of hold a certain impact or tell the story that it needs to. And that memory sort of, I don't know, at least that's what I took from it. Memories sort of become what they need to become, if that makes sense. So here are some short poems that really stuck out to me when I was thinking about storytelling in respect to artivism. The first one is by Gregory Orr. To be alive, not just the carcass, but the spark. That's crudely put, but if we're not supposed to dance, why all this music? That one I really had to sit with for a while, so I'm not sure how heavy or light that might feel for folks, but I know that one was a bit heavy for me. The next one is called Island by Langston Hughes. Wave of sorrow, do not drown me now. I see the island still ahead somehow. I see the island and its sands are fair. Wave of sorrow, take me there. That one as well might be a bit heavy. I just want to speak to that one a bit as well. The repeated line of wave of sorrow, and then the repeated line of I see the island. Wave of sorrow really like indicating, this heavy, possibly crushing feeling of sadness. But then the I see the island like indicating a sense of hope, a goal, a vision. It's there. And yeah, I don't know. That one really stuck with me. And then the third and final piece from Lucille Clifton, Why Some People Be Mad at Me Sometimes. They ask me to remember, but they want me to remember their memories, and I keep on remembering mine. Hopefully I'm not missing anything in the chat. I'm trying to catch up. Yeah, meme is art. I'm glad y'all can relate. Okay, so I think we have about 15 minutes left. So just want to be a bit mindful of time. But so the next two slides, I was just hoping that like this could be a bit more interactive. So if folks are comfortable like typing in chat, and if it is more accessible, like please feel free to get on mic if you need. But so for this page, what I was kind of hoping is from some of what I've discussed, and just whatever is kind of coming up for folks, what are some like strategies? I know this is a big question, but what are some strategies that y'all have for building sustainable care networks and mutual aid like work? I know initiatives is a big word, and I can kind of elaborate and I'll type it in the chat as well. But I can also just say like, what does sustainable community care look like to you? So feel free to like chew on that and think about it. But if you would like to type in the chat or come off mute and just share briefly what community care looks like or means to you. And also, I'm just going to quickly correct in chat. So there was a typo, or at least the first comment with the Venmo and PayPal. So it is AUTIESHAWTIE for Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. But thank y'all. No worries at all. Thank you all so much. And as mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, there's no pressure for folks to talk or share. So if folks aren't feeling the question or able to respond, no worries. I'm seeing someone said in the chat, creating accessible spaces to just be like QTPOC meditations. Yes. I agree. There's a space that I join, which is kind of a writing space, very informal, but we always have a prompt. But it's really encouraged that we kind of just write freely, and whatever comes up. And it has been like a very accessible space, probably the most accommodating space that I've ever been in. And so I just want to agree that that's really important. Oh, y'all have a rest fest at the end of the month, 2-day free virtual meditations and workshops. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing about that. I'm seeing someone saying community care to you looks like knowing and helping neighbors without a transactional mindset, not expecting things in return. Yeah, I want to echo that. And I think sometimes there can be a line between like transaction and like that sense of mutuality that people get confused about. And I think just a big important like differentiation is the expectation aspect, and what sort of understanding do both parties have about like capacity or access, because just because one party has access to certain resources or the ability to do something or share something doesn't mean that the other party can do the same, and is able to exchange the same. So I think that's kind of where some folks might have difficulty with the transactional mindset, this sort of like capitalist understanding of give and take. Someone saying, for it to be sustainable, it's important to do it at a pace that can be maintained and not a rush to fix everything at once and burn everyone out. We need to work and rest in phases sometimes. Yeah, exactly. And that looks different for everybody. So it's really important to remember that as well. Again, kind of referring to my personal experience, having ME, I experience what is called PEM, post-exertional malaise. So if I exert myself in any certain way, it could be something that seems simple, like doing laundry, or even just, facilitating a workshop like this on Zoom or Google Meet. It can be really easy for me to just be so exhausted, and then I'm stuck in bed for days to a week. And there are a lot of people who can't wrap their mind around how something like a chore or a 1-hour meeting can like take that much out of me. And yeah, I think it's just important to have perspective about what people are kind of navigating. Someone saying, bringing a variety of voices and skills so that needs are met through a network, not landing on one person. Yes, 100%. It's important to take care of ourselves while we take care of others. 100%, yes. I'm going to move on to the next slide, but if folks are still having thoughts in response to this question of what does sustainable community care look like to you, please feel free to continue answering. So I guess the question for this slide is sort of, what are some care needs that you have, and what are some resources you have? And that might be like very vague and confusing. So I'll give an example. Some care needs that I have are, I need help with chores. I need patience. I need to plan things like a week in advance. Some resources that I have that I could share and exchange. I'm handy with graphic design, so I can make graphics for people if needed. I can write. I like to write things for people. I can help with logistics, planning, making phone calls. So if folks want to kind of brainstorm and share that, and thank you so much, Ray, for helping sharing that question. And this isn't anything, this isn't to say like folks are asking of this or offering these things to folks in chat necessarily, but just to kind of brainstorm, because I know for me sometimes folks ask me what my needs are and then I can't think of them in the moment. So this is kind of a good opportunity to just consider what that might look like now, for future opportunities to ask for help with our care needs or to offer resources for other folks with care needs. Also, I realized I did miss a comment from the other side. Someone said, for me, care networks are created by offering a heating pad set on high, an invitation to fold laundry together, an offer to get creative about the kinds of fun we can have together at home. That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm like such a poet that like just the way that was written out sounded like poetry. So I especially appreciate you sharing that. Someone is saying, I need help with communicating my support and access needs. I find communal resources for people. Needs, breaks, closed captioning on audio and video, body doubling, reminders to eat and take breaks. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Body doubling is something that helps me too. That's a great example. In the reminders to eat and take breaks, reminders can be so helpful for folks. Yeah, I find it specifically, sorry, let me reread that. Someone said, I find specifically offering what you can do rather than how I can help is so much more helpful to the spoonie because delegating is exhausting. Yes, 100%. And I can give a brief example of body doubling because someone asked in chat. So body doubling is when you are kind of like coexisting in a space. Thank you, Ray, for answering in the chat. But yeah, so existing in a space and working on your own thing. So kind of just like coexisting and doing your own thing rather than like working on the same thing together. So an example is sometimes like when I need to get something done, I'll sit with my partner, even if they're like just watching TV or something, I'll be on the computer or my phone working on something. It's just helpful having someone else physically there for like accountability reasons and just to remember that I'm working on something. Definitely helpful for ADHD and neurodivergence. Somebody said, I need support when tackling the medical system that is so difficult to work through. Sometimes just holding hand while on phone. Yeah, I get that. I try to give by listening and helping share my knowledge, tackling problems. I like sharing extra supplies, doing parallel play where there isn't strong verbal social pressure. Since I'm deaf, I need help hearing and understanding things. I can do chores and plan and brainstorm ideas for other people. Resources, words of affirmation, help explaining medical stuff, affirmations, cooking when I have spoons, researching stuff. Okay, I'm going to read a couple more and then we can start to kind of wrap up the meeting. But I really appreciate folks giving examples. This is very exciting. It's also helpful for me because hearing what other people need and what other people are able to do kind of reminds me of what my needs are and what resources I have as well. I need support grocery shopping and moving heavy things around the house. I am a pro at navigating the evil medical system and schedule planning, smiley face. My dream is to live in a collective care home. I also love body doubling and parallel play. I need support doing chores and going places. I'm good at writing, making art, filling out paperwork, making appointments, planning things in advance, and listening actively to people. And then the last message I see is feeling involved, even if I can't be verbal. Sometimes just making face-to-face contact in a group conversation to check my facial expression. emphasized for communication. And then there's another message that says, as an empath with ADHD, I need solitude to connect with myself and my own feelings and needs. Oh, sorry, I don't usually talk this much, so I'm like trying to, I don't know, sync up my body. But that was amazing. Thank you all so much